Hey, you're still here. You've made it through probably some of the toughest stuff. It's going to get a little bit easier from here. It's not going to be quite as highbrow. We're going to talk about flow. We're going to talk about how we get through this song all together. We kind of start at the same place, and we get through to the same place, and we end at the same place in our song. I already talked a little bit about starting. Remember when we did our timing thing, we talked about our downbeat, you know, how we went our pattern with our 4/4 here, and we went I'm doing it wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we waved our arms, we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? We were counting out the beats as we went, but we were also letting people know when to start with us, with that downbeat, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That gets everybody singing at the same time. So you're not only singing the same pitch, because you got the music, you are singing the same timing, and you're singing at the same time, because you're all coordinated. You're all going on that same little pattern there. Okay? So we talked about that a little bit. It gets maybe a little bit tricky with the beginning and ending of the song. Remember how we talked about the measures can have a few less notes than we thought they were supposed to have. But we remember that bar. You know, you saw that bar in the measure. 3, 4, 5. Okay, we got some notes here. La, la, la. Okay, we got our bar. And this downbeat here, when we come down with that downbeat, everybody's going to be on that note. There may be a couple of notes here that we sing before. It's kind of an upbeat. You know, we're getting ready to go. But then when we hit this downbeat, whoo, everybody's all synchronized. They're all singing at the same time. And that's what we want. There are a couple other things to remember when you lead. You need to make sure that everybody's on the same verse. You've probably heard songs where you get through one verse and then the song leader goes to one verse he thinks is the next one, and then everybody else goes to some other verse, or there are 2 or 3 verses going on at the same time. So like, and then everybody sort of gets quiet because they don't know what to do. And they don't want to sound silly. So make sure when you lead that you keep people aware of what verse you're on, what verse you're going to next at the end of it. Now you see in a song that has a lot of verses in there, that's really important. So you don't always sing verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, verse 4, verse 5. You don't always sing them in a row. Sometimes, to keep the whole flow of the worship service going, sometimes you may cut out a couple of verses, or maybe there are a couple of verses that aren't quite appropriate for what you're doing right then. So you might sing 1, 2, and 4. You make sure when you get to the end of the first verse, okay, that you're going to tell people where you're going to next, so they can be singing with you instead of singing some other verse. Now, you're leading along with your hand. Say you're leading along here 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And this, you're about ready to get to the end of the verse. Here's what you don't want to do. 2, okay, all right. What is he doing? I can't see his fingers because he's moving too fast. You've got to keep everybody with you, but you got to make that verse visible. Okay, you got to make sure people can see. So what I do when I sing, I don't know if there's necessarily just one answer for it, but I will lead and then I'll hold that up and I'll maybe twitch it a little bit, okay? But people can see, oh, that's a 2. I know where he's going. And then I'll pick right back up going into that second verse, okay? So ending the verse, I'm ending verse 1, I'm gonna go to 2, okay? And everybody's still with me, okay? Ending the second verse, I'm going to go to 3. That is that downbeat again. Okay, see that downbeat? We got everybody coming in on the downbeat. On the downbeat. Oh, I'm ready for verse 4. 2, 3, 4. Down, 2, 3. Down, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you let people know where you're going, but you make sure they can see it. That's very, very important. Very, very important. Sometimes in songs too, you will see multiple endings. You'll see something like a bar, okay? We'll just draw it on our staff right here. And we're not gonna, again, we're not gonna get too complicated with the music theory and stuff, and I don't have a PhD either, okay? I don't even have a D or an MD. I don't know. I don't even have any letters after my name. So most of the stuff I've learned, I've just sort of learned by doing it, and people help me out. But sometimes you'll see different endings in a song. Okay? So see like a 1, and then this may be a repeat that goes back to the beginning somewhere, and then this is a 2. When you're leading your song, okay, you have things like this in here. It's really important that you know your music, that you've sung it before, that you're really familiar with it. You don't want to get up in front of somebody and lead and you don't even know the song, because nobody really has fun then. I mean, you're embarrassed and I got lost, and okay, so if you have complicated things like this, make sure you know where you're going in the song. Make sure you don't confuse people or get yourself confused. It'll be better for everybody to stay on the right track there. A couple other things I've seen song leaders do at the end of a song. They may want to repeat a phrase. Okay, so they may want to go around and do another pass at the chorus. So I've seen them go like this. That's kind of like head it around and let's do it again. Head them up, move them out. All right. So that's kind of a round up, and go back and do it. And also, instead of having endings like these, sometimes they just want to repeat a phrase. So at the start of the phrase that they're going to repeat, they're going to do this, and that means we're going to do this 3 times, okay? And then you sing the phrase, and then you're going to do it again, and then you're going to do it again, okay? Let's take our Amazing Grace example, okay? Here's kind of how this works. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Going to 4. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've known less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Than when we first begun. You see, I got tricky there on you, okay? We did 2 verses. We did the transition from 1 to 4 so they could see what was going on. And then at the very end, we did that little roundabout thing there and repeated that last little phrase. So that doesn't mean, this means verse 2. This means we're going around, we're doing this phrase again, okay? So that's how those kind of things work. So you saw the hand signals there, we were in 3/4 time, and we had the downbeat, we had our transition to verses, and then we had that little ending that we threw on the end there. So that's kind of how you keep the flow going in your song, and how you keep everybody with you. You transition the verses, maybe you do some other things to there. This is also something that you can do with the signals in keeping the flow of the song. You can also change it up just a little bit. So let's take our Amazing Grace example here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go first verse again, and then I'm going to slow down the 4th verse, okay? And so I'm going to make a big hand signal. I'm going to exaggerate so people see what we're doing. So let's do this again. Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. How about that? So we slowed down the pitch a little, the tempo a little bit, give it a real big majestic feel to it, big exaggerated movement so everybody can see what's going on. I added one more thing on the end there. You saw that I did this, okay? This little hand open thing here. That doesn't mean I need to borrow $10, but, well, I do. I'll talk to you later about that. But hand open there is a hold, okay? We're holding that note. When the people that are singing see that, they'll know to hold that out. And to end it, you close your hand off like that. Okay? So a hold and a close. That's part of your flow there. That's part of how you keep the song going or you slow it down. Sometimes you'll see in the song, you'll see this construction here, okay? It looks like a little arc and it's got a dot in the middle. Sometimes they call that a bird's eye or a fermata. Fermata, that's a big word. It's not a tomato covered with hair, okay? Fermata is a hold, okay? That's what that means. When you see that in there, you have the option as a leader to hold that note out, okay? So I can hold my hand out and I can say, let's hold that a little bit longer, and then I can close it off and I can go right back into it. So when you hold a note like that as part of your flow, you're going to break your pattern, okay? Dun, 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 dun. You know, it's up to you as a song leader to do that. It kind of depends on the feel of the song, what you're trying to do. So when you see that in the song, you'll know what to do on that. You can also just plow right through it if you don't want to. If you don't want to slow down, I'm going here. So you go right through there. But as a song leader, you're in control of that. You can kind of help set the mood and how you want the flow of the song to go. And that's one of the tools you can do. So hopefully here we've learned a little bit about flow mechanisms, you know, things that we can do to move the song, to transition from verses, to hold things out a little bit, our alternate endings, our little patterns where we can go around and repeat some things. So that's some of the little tools you can use for that.